Kay Jewelers early Black Friday sale is happening now. Get up to 50% off Black Friday deals and up to 40% off everything else. Don't miss this sale. Start your season with savings, only at Kay. Exclusions apply. See kay.com/exclusions for details.
Hello, everyone. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to remind you that my book, Drummers on Drumming, is available now on Amazon as both a paperback and an ebook. Based on the Big Fat 5 segment of this podcast, where I sit down with my favorite drummers to discuss the 5 records and stories that shaped their approach to the instrument, this book is packed with insights from the drummers who redefined how we think about the modern drum set. You can grab your copy now by checking the link in this episode's show notes or simply searching Drummers on Drumming on Amazon. So thank you for all the support, and now let's get into the show. We can just start the show, then I'll get to know you that way. But by the way, this is the drum panel. I'm not sure if I'll record another intro for this, but I'm back with Eric Urrea. It's been a long time, but good to see you. And then Brian Blake. So take it away. Who are you? And then we'll casually go from there.
You know what? My name is Brian Blake, and I am a drummer for the band Real Friends, which is I would describe it as a pop-punk, emo kind of hybrid based out of Chicago. And we have been active since technically about 2010. I've been playing in the band as my full-time job since about 2014. So it's been a career at this point, which still feels very strange to say. But yeah, that's my job, and that's what I've been doing for over a decade now. We are definitely in the minority with being able to do that because we also have a very, very strong DIY work ethic. And I would say that is probably 80% of why I am able to have it as my sole job at this point, because we ship our own merch. We don't bring guitar techs or drum techs on the road. We are very, very much a band that we're going to do everything we possibly can within our control before we hire outside help, before we outsource a job. So that's a huge part of why I'm able to do this as my full-time career.
When you guys started this, and Eric, I'll let you talk eventually, but I have a new shiny toy I want to play with. But was there a mentor? How did, a bunch of dudes get together and be like, guys, let's take this seriously?
I would say that it really is the collaborative effort of everyone involved. I feel like for years and years, I grew up as the other guys did, playing in the local Chicago punk, hardcore, whatever you want to call it, scene, pop punk scene. And it just so happened that when I came across the other guys, it was sort of that moment of damn, I finally found the people that want to really put in the effort and the late nights and just go nuts trying to make this thing happen. I remember talking to our bass player Kyle on the phone, and Kyle's I would say he's kind of our band leader. He's very much takes care of a lot of the business things that no one else really wants to, and he helps on that end in a massive way. But I remember having a talk with him, and he was kind of at the time I worked full time for a healthcare provider, and he was like, so, say the band is doing well. Would you ever be willing to take time off work to go on tour? And I kind of laughed. I was like, yeah, of course I would take time off. There's no way we're going to tour, but yeah, of course I would do, that's the dream. Yeah. You might as well have asked me if we get the opportunity to play Madison Square Garden, are you okay with taking a day off work? It's well, of course I am, I would say it had a lot to do with the work ethic of everyone involved. You didn't have that one person that was kind of I'm not feeling great today. I'm not going to make it to practice. Let's push it off. Or I got to leave early today. My girlfriend's bugging me about, hanging out with her instead, whatever it might have been. And yeah, I think that it was kind of this perfect blending of talented musicians and people that really were on the same page of like, if we're going to do this, let's make it count and let's bust our asses to make it happen. And still without the expectation of it happening. It was like, no matter what, we love doing this, so let's give it everything we have. And at the end of the day, like, we just want to play shows. That's all that really matters to us. It just so happened that it caught on for whatever reason, and a couple of little tours led to bigger national touring, and that led to just kind of this momentum that never really slowed down, and just has continued to go for all these years.
How long in your journey into drumming were you when the band started to really pick up? Did you feel like you were under-equipped, or you're like, man, I've been playing for 10 years already, let's get this going?
It's funny that you ask that because, Eric,
I see
you've
Eric
mentioned,
laughing down there.
Yeah. Eric's mentioned this before on the podcast, and I can't remember what the term or the name is, but the idea of when you're not really all that good, you think that you know everything, or you feel very confident, and then as you get better, you sort of realize you don't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard it the Dunning-Krueger curve.
That's what it is,
That's
yes.
it. The Freddy Krueger method, yeah.
The Freddy Krueger, yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that when I joined Real Friends, I had been playing in local bands for a decade plus.
Mm-hmm.
I was a good drummer. I could hold my own. I knew how to play the couple of things that I knew how to play, and that was good enough. And I never had been in a band where I needed to push myself much past that. So with Real Friends, it started off as we're playing shows, we're having fun, people are energetic and they're singing along and jumping around. And very quickly into it, it got to a point where maybe I'm not good enough to be doing this. Maybe this kind of was a bit of an accident. And it sort of sparked this whole impostor syndrome thing that I've been battling for a decade now of, well, it didn't matter when I made a mistake when I was in the basement playing in front of 40 people, but now I'm in Philadelphia playing Electric Ballroom to 1,000 people, and I just screwed up the intro of one of our biggest songs, and now the band is bummed out after the set, and I'm feeling awful. And all of a sudden I had this kind of intense anxiety of like, I was good enough for the local shows. I should not be playing these bigger sort of mid-size venues. And it was a blessing and a curse because it lit a fire under my ass to work a whole lot harder and start taking the instrument a lot more seriously. Because up until that point, I played, I had fun, I wasn't really interested in learning a lot of new techniques or challenging myself all that much. It was, it was like I was good enough. So what? And then all of a sudden I'm comparing myself to my peers and I'm like, you gotta step it up a bit. You really gotta, not that I needed to be perfect, but like, you gotta get a lot better and you gotta do it quickly, because if you keep making mistakes or, stumbling on stage, people eventually are going to be like, oh, I guess maybe this band wasn't as solid as I thought they were.
What's your experience with that, Eric? I guess I'll bring you in. Like, with the success you've had and stuff, do you feel similar?
I think it's, I was just out on tour with La Armada, which is like the hardcore punk band that I play in, and we were opening up for Strung Out and Agnostic Front, and those guys are like legendary like hardcore bands, like founders of hardcore basically. And I was feeling the imposter syndrome for real, because I did not grow up playing punk and certainly not hardcore. So like being around these guys that are like the real deal, I was like, dude, what am I doing here? Like, this is not, everyone's got a double bass pedal. I'm like, what do I
At what point do you think you're going to allow yourself to be considered the real deal? Like what precipice do you have to go,
Yeah,
question,
yeah, that's a tough one. Jeez.
I'm afraid mine will never be. I'll never consider myself the real deal.
Totally.
So that's just kind of like,
Sure.
I can't even define what that is really, whether I'll reach that or not. So I think anyone watching, I have a lot of friends that have reached out that are drummers that have gotten to know you, Eric, through listening to the podcast, and they'll send me clips of you playing, and I'm like, yeah, I know he's 10 times better than me.
Oh,
He should be
stop.
hosting
No.
the thing.
I'm the same way watching him. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, I think if we're all being realistic, like those conversations about any of us are probably not happening. No one's behind closed doors going, yeah, this guy, he's been faking it for years. It's just, it's wrestling with the fact that we're all our own worst critic, and like goes back to the thing I've said so many times is that like we're the people that are the most bored of our own playing, and we know the ins and outs of all of our weakest areas. And when you like put it in front of people, they won't see that like 9 times out of 10, but we're painfully aware of what those insecurities are, and, painfully aware of what people could be saying about us.
Yeah.
Even though they probably aren't.
What's funny about you saying, like these punk and hardcore guys, and oh man, they're the OGs, whatever. It like coming from the punk and hardcore scene, I very much am intimidated by the classically trained musicians such as yourself. So grass is always greener, I guess, because
so true.
For me, it was always, I messed around, I learned on my own, I just sort of fumbled around until I figured out how to play and do what I needed to do. And then someone comes in and they're like, hey man, went to school for this, I'm a jazz major, I talk music theory, and that's when I'm like, oh no, they're gonna find out that I have no idea what I'm doing.
When you sit behind a kit today, let's just say you're at NAMM and you're going with a bunch of your drummer friends that they've seen you play live, but they've never seen you play up close, so you're really nervous. You're like, oh, I'm going to test out this new kit. What's the beat you play that would make them go, all right, boy can play?
Well, it depends on if I want to play something and play it well, or if I want to try to play something I've been working on and most likely screw it up halfway through. So,
of course, yeah.
Two very different answers there.
Say them both.
Yeah, I love a good halftime with throwing in ghost notes and lots of doubles on the kick. I also am a big triplet guy. I just love triplet fills and grooves and things like that. So, I mean, stuff like that definitely is a lot of fun for me to play. It depends how far I want to push myself. If I just rein it in, I'm not playing anything too wild. And if I'm working on something that I'm working on in the privacy of my storage unit, well, then I'm playing open-handed, and I'm doing polyrhythms, and I'm trying to keep time on the hi-hat while playing a tom and snare groove, with my right hand. I definitely practice a lot of things that I don't necessarily play in Real Friends, but that's what keeps me excited about the instrument. If I came into my practice spot and only played through Real Friends songs, I would have been done years ago, because you have to challenge yourself in new and exciting ways and find new ways to make things fun for yourself. It's like I view it as like this game, and I'm trying to unlock a new level. Today I was able to throw in a ghost note on the E of this polyrhythm groove that I'm working on, and it's like, cool, I leveled up a tiny bit today, and then I'll come back to it tomorrow. And when it comes to playing through just my standard pop punk and just punk leaning tendencies, I don't have to think too much about that stuff. It's kind of like it's burnt into my muscle memory, and kind of circling back to the whole, like, you got to keep yourself sort of engaged. That's when I probably would be like, I'm bored. I don't feel like playing this, even though I might be playing it well. I'm not really interested in playing this at the moment. I'd rather play that stuff with the band in a live setting. That's exciting. But if I'm by myself, I wanna play some weird stuff that's never gonna make it into a Real Friends song.
if you could start a band from scratch again, would it still be in the same genre that you've made your career in?
Absolutely not.
Really? Okay.
Wow.
Which I don't think is a bad thing.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's a bad thing either. I think that I'm incredibly grateful for my time that I've had doing this. And I still love to perform. I absolutely love it. Even nerves and anxiety and imposter syndrome aside, I love playing, whether it's a good show or maybe not my favorite show. It's just like, it really does kind of fulfill me. But if I was to today say, like, I'm starting a new band, I wouldn't want to just do more of the same. I would want to, it would be like, you know what, I miss playing metal. I want to play, I'm going to bust out the double bass pedal that I haven't played in 15 years, and I want to try and play a Pantera-inspired groove metal or something. Like, switch it up and challenge myself even more, and just unlock different parts of my brain and, different parts of different sounds on the instrument.
What about you, Eric? I mean, would you start from scratch again with the same thing?
Man, this is such a tough one. I do feel like I would, but I've been so busy doing like a lot of just different kind of session playing and fill-in gigs for people that I get a lot of fulfillment from a lot of different areas, like doing more pop-centered gigs versus more metal hardcore things and kind of progressive things. So I feel lucky enough to be able to pull from a lot of the things that I grew up listening to and am inspired by. Mm-hmm. And then I can kind of like throw myself into my more pop alternative leaning project. But that's a tough one. I'm really curious for you, Ben, like if you could start a band from absolute scratch, what would that band sound like?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this a lot on the most recent tour I was on. It would probably be, and also just career arc wise, and I know there's some controversy surrounding the lead singer right now, for sure. So I'm aware of that going into this, but it's been this answer for a long time, is Arcade Fire, which is they have never really had a massive hit, but they're a band that is always going to do well. Again, separate from more recent things, I guess. But they could headline a festival. It would never not make sense. But it's not like, oh, they're this band. They're the band that does this. They're just, their arc is every record's great, personally, and they've just maintained this level of quiet success. But sonically, as a band, also just like the genre they play, I really gravitate towards. I think it's just, at any age, I think I would have enjoyed it playing it when I was a kid, but I think if I'm still wanting to tour at 85, it would be stuff that I would think I would feel good playing.
That's such a hard thing to achieve, and that's something that I feel like we talk about a lot in the band, is we don't want to sound like we're writing a song for 2025. We want to sound like this song might have come out in 2015, it might have come out in 2005. It doesn't matter. We want people to listen to that and say the themes in this song stand the test of time and resonate with me today, whether both lyrically and musically.
Well, no, I think that's a great point. And how do you think you execute that as a drummer to be something that's not of the year?
Oof. As a drummer, that's tough.
Yeah, that is hard. In the band, we, of course, try to keep certain things the same when it comes to drums. We have certain things that we do that are nothing that's too wild or out there, just things that I think really have worked for us in the past. And we've got other things where you do get to a point where you're like, well, do we want to do another punk D-beat thing, in a song? And it's like, well, let's see if we can find a way around that. We don't need to do that all the time, but also not limiting yourself. If that's what the song calls for, it's like, cool, throw that in there. It works. I think that sometimes it can kind of come back to bite you in the ass a little bit when you're like, well, we can't do that because we did that on that record we released in 2017. And if we do that again, then we're just recycling material. It's like being open-minded to those things without phoning it in. It is a balance that you have to find.
Yeah, that's really true. It's like trying to figure out if you're doing, like in the example of like a drum part, are you doing what the song calls for, or are you taking like the easy way out? You know, if it's just like, okay, we need like a 2 and 4 backbeat, are you playing for the song, or are you just kind of taking the first option, the obvious choice, and then sticking with it? You know,
Yeah,
if you're
how
trying
do
to
you know
find
what that is?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think also you can sometimes, run into that issue of like, well, I've been doing this for a while, so I'm going to throw in this wacky, little hi-hat fill thing here. And it's like, okay, even though that's cool, it does not add to the song. And if anything, that's distracting. So I know you want to challenge yourself, but maybe just, stick with something that hits and grooves with the music that's being played. So you do have to be self-aware, and it's like, hey, just because you don't feel challenged playing this does not mean that it's not a good drum part for the song.
Yeah, because you're also kind of coming up with a part being like, this has to be original, and every Real Friends song. There could be someone who is listening to the new album, has never heard your band before, so the first time they hear this song, they want to hear that groove that makes sense, but you're like, but I didn't do it because I did it for, like you were saying earlier, it's like, I've done it for this amount of time, so I'm only allotting myself this beat 10 more times in my career, so it's like...
Exactly, and I think we're, of course, so much more aware of that than the audience is, or even than the biggest fans of the band are, It's like, I'll run into, overthinking for a set list where I'm like, oh my God, we've got 2 songs in a row that end with, Real Friends has a decent amount of songs where I would say we do 3 hits to either going into something or ending a song or whatever. And I've had situations where it's like, oh God, this is the 2nd song in a row that's ending with dut, dut, dut. Yeah, no one else is paying attention to that, dude.
And they love that part of both songs.
Yeah,
They're like,
exactly.
I want the 3 hits. Why didn't you play the 3 hits?
It's like, come on, it works for a reason,
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. This Monday night, witness the end of an era. John Cena takes center stage for his final appearance ever on Monday Night Raw. One last match, one unforgettable farewell. Come celebrate the legacy of a true WWE legend. Monday Night Raw, November 17th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, only on Netflix. Be there for the moment everyone will be talking about.
You don't technically need this car. You say that out loud to yourself. You say, I have no space. You say, I'm just looking. Then you click. Then you zoom in on photo number 87 and whisper, oh no. Then you text a friend, the one who always enables you. You say to yourself, this is the last one, knowing it is not. You don't need this car. But maybe, just maybe, this car needs you. Bring a trailer. It's never just a car.
But yeah, both you guys, because most of my bands I'm in right now, I'm not the original and/or creative force behind the drum beats. I'm playing, the stuff on the record, or I'm joining a band that's been established for a while. But how do you guys grapple with knowing, and I'll just dumb down this statistic, half the people, when a new record comes out or a new song, they're like, oh, I want them to change. I want them to see how far they can push it. And then there's the other half that's like, I like this band because you guys sound like this. Make another record of new songs that just sound like this. You got to be selfish, but you also have to understand it's a business, especially, unfortunately, that we do have to think like that 24/7. But how do you guys grapple with that?
Oh, man.
That's all you, Eric.
Jeez, yeah. I tend to just fall back on writing selfishly, and I don't know that that's the right answer. I haven't achieved smashing, billion streams yet, so...
But that's the question. That's kind of the question. There is no right answer by just objective stats,
Yeah.
So how do you make peace with your,
Yeah, someone really early on in Marina City's career told us, that you shouldn't cater to your fans because in the grand scheme of things, there's 7 billion people on Earth. Your fans aren't even a percentage of that. And to try and think outside of I have to please the people that already like my band, and rather think about it as if I write selfishly and if I write authentically, hopefully I, at least optimistically believe that will resonate with people if I'm being authentic and not writing for, this small group of people, that maybe I can reach some of the 7 billion people that haven't heard my band. And in the grand scheme of things, like, that's what it's about. It's about really reaching the largest amount of people possible, but also being your authentic self and having fun in the process.
Yeah, risk and reward for sure. It's like if you're doing the same thing over, oh, this worked before, so we're just going to keep copying it. Of course, each time you do that, it's going to get more and more watered down and muddied, and it's not going to hit the same way it did. And I would say for us, it's like we've got certain instances of times when we really tried to push ourselves out of our comfort zone, and it was like, oh my God, that went over so well, I can't believe it. And we've had other times where it's like we love what we did, and it's like, oh yeah, no one cared about that song or those couple songs or whatever. But if you just keep doing a variation of the same thing, I think that you end up kind of losing on both fronts, because you've got the fans getting bored, and then you're kind of getting bored with it yourself. So you can't do a total 180 and like, all right, we're going full nu metal now, but you can't just be, all right, well, this worked on the last record, so let's just copy that for this record. Everyone's, you're going to have a lot of people that are like, well, I'm kind of bored of you now.
Mm-hmm. Well, if the music business part of it was taken out of the equation, how do you think you guys would approach this exact conversation, being like with Eric, trying to reach a wider audience? If money and monetary success was completely separate from you making your art, how do you think that would be different? Like, would your definition of success in this realm, would you approach it completely differently?
Maybe. I mean, I don't think so, to be honest. I think at the end of the day, it's like, if you enjoy what you're doing, you're going to do it more, and then you're going to improve on it, and it's going to be better, at least in a perfect world that resonates with more people. As you get better, then more people will appreciate it. So I think if you're not writing for yourself, it becomes something that's not as enjoyable. It can become something that becomes a chore, that feels like a job, and then you don't want to do it as much, and then you don't improve the same trajectory that you would if you were actually having fun doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers the question, but
I mean, knowing me,
Completely.
that I asked like 5 different questions in the same one, so just cherry pick, dude.
You hit the nail on the head, Eric. It's you, as long as you're doing what excites you and you're not deviating too far from what the identity or the core of the band's sort of style and sound is, that's all there is to, like, as far as feeling fulfilled. I think that when I've personally been the most sort of bummed out, that maybe that's a little harsh, but when I've been the least excited about music that the band is writing is when it just, I describe it as nice. It's just, yeah, it sounds nice, sounds like a pop punk song, kind of mid-tempo, lyrically it sounds like some stuff that we've done before. Yeah, it's nice, It doesn't really do anything. When I've been the most excited, on the other hand, is when it's kind of like, hey man, just keep an open mind, but what if we did something like this for a chorus? And that's when I'm like, oh my God, that's so wild. Like, screw it, let's try it. Why not? Like, if people hate it, who cares? Because like, we all think that's super cool, and you feel you're sort of like, the creative juices start flowing again, and you're like, oh my God, this is what it used to feel like when we would write, instead of, oh, well, let's make a song that's kind of like this, but 10 BPM faster. And it's like, yeah, that's all right.
That's so good. I always think of inoffensive as like one of the worst things a song or an artist could be. It's just like, inoffensive.
Hey, that sounds like a song. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's it's got verses and choruses and even a bridge. That's
right.
Really nice.
I believe I'm listening to music right now.
Yeah.
Like I do genuinely believe, and this is kind of maybe a sort of side tangent, but it's like when you have haters, you're doing something right. Something that's really powerful, something that's worth talking about is also something that's worth being hated by somebody, you know?
Completely
it's
agree.
like, this is so not for me, and that's fine. Like that, the thing that's for everybody is the thing that's just like, white bread.
Yeah, I'm actually in the process. We're the band is writing some new songs right now. Just we have some time off from touring, and so yeah, we're trying to get going with some writing, and we're discussing that a lot actually, especially when it comes to things like lyrics, where it's kind of like, well, we've covered a lot of lyrical themes over the year, a lot of the same lyrical themes over the years. And so now we're getting to a point where it's kind of like we're doing a collaborative effort of, hey, you know what would really stand out is this line about this thing. And it's like, oh man, like that might piss some people off. Good. But let people be pissed off. Like, at least they will pay attention. They will have an opinion on it. And that always seems to be the bands that I hear being talked about is, I hate this band. They blah, blah, blah. Or, well, I love them because they do that. You don't hear people discussing bands where it's like, yeah, they play sort of this like middle of the road kind of rock music. And, it's fine. No one feels passionate enough to discuss that. So you don't want to push it too far and be like, well, we got to be weird just to weird people out. But also, I do think there's something to saying, hey, this is something we all feel strongly about. It might rub some people the wrong way, or maybe people might think this is a little too weird of a direction. But as long as we're into it, screw it, let's try. And if it fails, no big deal. And and best case scenario, maybe people are excited and they're like, oh my God, I haven't heard this side of the band before.
Yeah, it's always a gamble. Like, and again, there is never, not everyone's going to want the same. Not everyone engages with music the same way. Some people use it as an escape. Some people use it as a way to get inspired. Some people use it as a way to, they like to dissect things. And so the more new things you try, they'd have to, it's everyone's brain works differently. So you just got to, hyper specificity actually helps you reach a bigger audience, which is what Eric was saying, because people can relate to. I mean, I've said this before, and I think I edit it out a lot because I think I talk about it so much. So maybe I'll edit this out as well. But it's like John Mulaney, when he talks about at the beginning of his career, he would have these jokes and he would try to make these generalizations about his father, and they would land, but he's like, man, this isn't really resonating as much. And then he would start talking about a particular thing his father would do, and then that would reach a broader audience because they'd be like, oh, my dad does something like that. They can resonate on a more human level because there's just a theme that he's talking about. And so I'm not sure if that exactly correlates to like trying new things on the drums, but if your band as a core decide to just be super unique, it will, weirdly enough, niche you up,
And that is something, again, and I love that I'm talking lyrics on a drum podcast, but lyrically, we're very aware of that, and I think we're even more aware of it currently than we have been in the past, where we are, Kyle, our bass player and lyricist, and then Cody, our vocalist and lyricist. It's kind of collaborative between the two of them. They'll present lyrics, and it'll be something hyper-specific. Maybe it's a song about nostalgia, and it's talking about how like, oh, it used to be Blockbuster Video or something like that, and it's like, oh, that's so specific, and it's like, yeah, but there's so many people out there that's going to take them back to a specific time in their life and make them think about a specific way they felt at that time. So yeah, you're going to have people that are younger and they're going to say okay, boomer, whatever. Like, but you're also going to have all these people that are like, I do remember going there, or like how weird that felt when those all disappeared. It seems silly, but that's the kind of stuff that all of a sudden it's like, that line really stuck with me.
Well, yeah, and it's like saying Blockbuster would obviously resonate with the people that know about Blockbuster. But if I hear a songwriter talk about, oh, I went to my hometown and Sal's went out of business, I'd be like, I have no idea what Sal's is, but I know exactly I have a Sal's.
Totally.
There you go. Yeah.
And
same
then
idea.
it's that, oh my God, is that night that girl broke up with me outside of the hoagie restaurant, whatever. It's just like it's almost like they have a trigger, and then it's just, they create that specificity for themselves. It's cool.
Yeah. That's something I think that the band does very well. Not really any thanks to myself, but something that I think the band does very well is this ability to be very specific, but also vague enough that someone can associate it to their own life. And it's not, oh, well, I don't have an Uncle Warren, that doesn't mean anything to me, Just finding that balance of getting people to say, well, this song might be about losing somebody, but it also could be about a breakup too, just depending on how you're viewing it, what lens you're viewing it through.
I mean, a drum beat can do that too. If there's
Absolutely.
something where there's a break in a song and then you do an homage to a song from the mid-90s, if there's drummers and they know what you're doing, like I think Adam Kriskow talks about it sometimes if he has buddies in the audience. He's an amazing drummer and a friend of the pod. He'll sometimes do things in the audience like a fill just to make the drummer that he knows that's there. It's like there's this thing we used to do and I'll do something playfully that it's like you kind of tip in the hat to that person. So we, even though we can't do lyrical stuff, we can do nostalgia as well.
I love when drummers do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'll do that kind of thing when we're on tour. If I catch a groove or a part in a song that maybe the band before or after us is playing, I will intentionally throw that in wherever I can. And, some people are going to pick up on it and a lot of people aren't, but the ones who do are going to be like, oh, that's that part from the song that, that headlining band plays or that big single of theirs or whatever it might be. Things like that go such a long way for the people that pick up on them. And if you don't get it, it's just, oh, that's a cool drum beat that drummer just played. It's a win-win.
Yeah. This is, I have so many questions and we haven't gotten to any of them in the best way possible because
cool.
I've just been going.
I ramble too. I'm sorry.
No. I only said that as to say because I have one more thing I want to talk about that's not on my notes. But I'm curious on your guys' perspective on what is in your responsibility and or wheelhouse of how to approach if something's going wrong on stage, how you approach it afterwards. Because there's been times in the past where the singer is like saying something in banter that I think collectively the band is like, you should probably reword that because it's not landing. And singers tend to get in the same. If it works one night, they just keep doing it from night to night as like a filler thing. How do you approach saying maybe not say that as a drummer, and then also there's like a dopamine, this is the second part, there's like a dopamine rush that everyone's on walking off stage. Do you give it like 30, 40 minutes before you even bring up anything negative, or do you like to do it right away? Do you feel it's your responsibility as the drummer more so than maybe the guitar player to like talk about the show as a whole? Or how do you guys approach that? And again, that's like 9 questions. So
so first and foremost, I would say that one person has the ability to bring down the morale of the entire room.
Yeah.
So as far as critiques on the set, I always will keep that until probably the next day, I would say. And, realistically, we're playing at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I don't want to at midnight say, hey, when you said that, it felt kind of lame. Well, anyways, good night. Sleep well, And I've been that guy. I have for sure been the negative. Oh, that sucked, or and
Me
really,
too.
it's probably because of something I did that I wasn't happy about. And it's like, oh, I didn't like that show, and everyone else is like, that was one of the best sets we've ever played. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, I didn't. It's like
You're wrong.
because I didn't feel as tight as I wanted to.
Sure.
Yeah, I have had that conversation before. As far as, I really like what's being said on stage, but it's starting to feel a little scripted. And when that happens, you just know that the crowd is not taking it in the way they were the first time it was said and done. So we're pretty good with sitting down at some point, maybe once a day, maybe once every couple of days, and just saying like, how's everyone feeling? What do you think about the set? Anything we can improve? And I would say we've got pretty decent communication, and I feel comfortable enough with the other guys that I am okay with saying, hey, honestly, this feels a little awkward to me. I personally am not into that. And, if everyone else is into it, cool, we'll roll with it. Mm-hmm. But I just want to throw that out there. And usually that will give someone else the ability to chime in and say, I also felt a little weird about that. Let's talk about a way we can revamp that, or how can we do the same idea but in a more fresh way.
Yeah. No, I think this is working on those kind of skills should be just as important as your rudiments. The communication is actually going to get your career to continue.
For sure.
Oh, biggest issues I have ever run into with the band, both for myself personally and the other band members, is when communication breaks down, no one's talking, something weird is going on, everyone feels awkward, no one wants to bring up a negative topic, and that's when stuff gets really messy.
Yes.
So we have had so many conversations about, guys, we gotta keep the communication going, even if it feels uncomfortable, even if you think that what you're saying is stupid, or you think you're the only one that feels this way. Please voice your opinion, because the last thing you want is that guy who shuts down after the show, doesn't say anything, and everyone else is tiptoeing around being like, is it me? Is it because of how I played? Is it because of what he said in the mic at that? Or, and you start getting in your own head, and next thing you know, you're like, I just want this tour to be over. And it could be something as simple as, actually, I had a bad call with my mom, and something's going on at home, and I'm really pissed off right now. And it's like, oh man, this whole time I thought you were mad because I messed up the intro to that song. Talking is so important.
Well, even a lot of times too, it's happened to me where they just needed a way to, they needed to put a face to the monster, and you messed up that drum fill. And so they just, whether they wanted to or not, they just decided to be mad at you about that drum fill. And that was their way to let it out. It's tough. It's very human. I've done that,
I couldn't agree with all you guys more. I think I've always kept a really strict rule of no criticizing until I leave the venue. And that goes for myself and for my bandmates. And generally, it will be like what Brian said, it will be stuff that gets brought up the next day, because I don't want to bring it up in the van at midnight. It's not the appropriate time either. But generally speaking, I like that rule of trying to separate and letting yourself be proud of the fact that you went on stage and you did the thing that most people never get to do in their entire lives. And just kind of relishing in that moment together, and not being the guy who's like, man, I really screwed up. I played like shit tonight. Or if it's about somebody else, you don't want to be the guy who's like, hey man, what happened in that second verse of the fourth song?
Yeah. Don't be that guy.
Just save it. Let everyone have a good time and process the show however they want to process it. So I put that hard barrier on myself to not criticize until after the show. But I do ultimately think that communication is vitally important. And I will add the caveat that my approach is generally different if I'm doing a for hire session for somebody, in which case
I'm sure
I can play Happy Idiot all day long.
I don't know what's going on. I'm just happy to be here, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I think you bring up a very important point, Eric, that it's just kind of and of course we're all guilty of this, but you're sitting there after the show, that show sucked, and I screwed up, and which, by the way, you go back and watch a video and you're like, it really wasn't even that bad.
Yeah.
But in the moment, you're like, man, I suck. That show was bad. I don't even want to be here. And all of a sudden, it's like you have to catch yourself and be like, you spoiled fucking brat. Sorry for swearing. You spoiled brat.
For emphasis, I will allow it.
All right, great. Thank you. I'm passionate, as you can
hear.
But, it's like you have umpteen amount of bands that are looking at you saying, wow, that is so cool that they get to do this. And you're going to walk off stage and be like, my night is ruined. That one part in the set that lasted 5 seconds didn't go how I wanted it to, and I'm going to pout the rest of the night. It's like, are you kidding me? What would your 16-year-old self say to you? Get over it, you entitled bastard.
A lot of times when I mess up, it usually means because I'm trying something. So I'm kind of like, okay, well, good on you for trying something, but don't do it again.
I wish I had that sort of bravery when it comes to this. I feel like I'm so timid when it comes to throwing something in there that's improvised. It's like if I have not played it a million times, I'm kind of like that fight or flight mode kicks in and I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And then I just crumble, you know? And the guys will, every now and then, it's kind of like, it's funny after the fact, but in the moment, it definitely does not amuse me. And it's like, Brian, play a drum solo. And I'm like, haha, yeah, no, I'm not going to do it. And they're like, but they won't let it go. They're like, no, come on. Play a drum solo. And I'm like, you assholes. All of a sudden, it's like, you go to play, and you're just like, oh my God, that was so embarrassing because I didn't know what to do. I didn't even think about what I was going to do. It was like, I just, with the gorilla fist, just, and you're just like, well, now I just want this show to be over with. Whereas if I've practiced something numerous times, it's like, I'm gonna rehearse a drum solo so that when you guys pull that out, I'm like, all right, here we go. I've got it down. It's a 1 minute long drum solo, and I've practiced this 1,000 times. Here you go, guys. Improvisation is not my thing. No.
Well, improvisation in front of people, definitely not.
Yes. Yeah, there you go.
Well, Eric, you're amazing at drum solos. So your perspective's probably... I mean, by the way, I agree with you, Brian, but Eric, what's your perspective?
No, I 100% agree. I feel bad that I was laughing but I was laughing because that's my actual nightmare, is someone going, hey, do a drum solo.
But it seems like you practice that stuff.
No, well, I have had this project recently where I have been giving myself the opportunity to improvise in front of people. Because the reality is like, at least in my experience, there's so few opportunities that I get to do that. So when it does come up, I like hate doing it because I haven't practiced improvising in front of people, you know? Like La Armada has this section in one of their songs where there's a drum solo. And I told myself right away when we started playing that song that I was going to film and post every time that solo section comes up to hold myself accountable, that I'm not like going to compose the same thing every time, and that I'm going to improvise it on the spot. It has varying degrees of success, but every time it's terrifying. That's
so impressive. I feel like the thought of doing something like that has me sweating. To just say like, yeah, just go for it, see what happens.
Let me be clear. It drives me absolutely bananas to not have composed this thing out and be playing the same thing every night. I've been doing it for probably like 2-ish years now, and it still is just like the most horrifying moment of every night.
What makes you more nervous though, Eric? Playing it in front of the people live, or being like, I have to post this on the people on the internet? Like, which audience are you more afraid of?
Honestly, it's the live one, if I'm being
really
totally...
okay.
Honestly, when it goes bad, I, for whatever reason, am like more excited to post it because I don't know, maybe it's some weird.
But you've also, in a way, in a more zoomed out way, you film yourself so much and you post so much of your drumming that the weight of you posting something that might not be exactly what you wanted to execute is so different than me, because it's just a numbers game. I admire you in a lot of ways, but one of them is how much you post.
No, I there's probably a lot of validity to that. I definitely don't put a too much thought into like what I put out there on the internet. I do ultimately still want to look professional, and you know, hopefully people will be like, "Hey, I should hire that guy. That would be sick."
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think most of it probably comes from teacher brain, and I think it's important for me to show my students or potential students or anyone out there who's just learning that perfection isn't something that really ever is going to happen on stage, and that things are going to go wrong, and how you deal with those errors and how you overcome those situations is the really important thing. That's the make or break it in this entire business. Is, when you drop a stick, how's that recovery going to go? When you break a drumstick 5 seconds into the drum solo, what are you going to do?
Yeah, the amount that you post is definitely one of those things that, like Ben, I watch in awe and kind of like, man, I wish I was at a point where I could do something like that, because when you're posting once every 6 months of you actually playing the instrument, it's like, well, I don't want it to be something that's just decent. Like it needs to be fantastic because, oh my God, there's only 4 videos of me actually playing the drums, And also, on the other end of that, like seeing a drummer that just rips it, and seeing them in a situation where they do have a mess up, there is something so comforting about that, where it's like, man, yeah, we all screw up when we're playing, like it is nice to have that reminder of we're all just like doing the best we can on this. And of course, none of us are going out there and just like, oh, mistakes. Yeah, I haven't really made any mistakes in the last couple of years of playing. Like, of course I have, we all have.
Wow. Congrats.
Genuinely, where this stemmed from for me is I film every show that I play. To circle back to what we were talking about earlier, is that's self-critique for me. That's what the priority of that footage is. Every night after the show, in the van ride to the next venue, or in the morning to the next venue, whatever, I'm watching and I'm editing the footage with my critical hat on. I'm like, okay, I rushed this, or, oh, that stick drop recovery was way better than I thought it was, And to really have like a super objective perspective on how the night went with some distance from the show is like something that I really value. And then, getting to share that with people in real time, I enjoy doing that. And I think it's also easy for me because it's right there because I already filmed it.
No, that's awesome, though. I mean, I can't imagine what that would do to my playing if every minute I had a video for every minute I was on stage. I can't imagine how I would approach things differently, just being able to see, oh, this is the full set and there's no cutting away from me. I'm watching my form for this entire hour-long set,
Can you talk about your setup and how you do edit? Because obviously I think you use a different sound source than what the video is.
Yeah, I want to know that too.
Oh, I got you. I mean,
Thank you.
There's a variety of different, it depends on what the band I'm with, what their setup is. A lot of times I'm lucky enough where the band I'm out with will have an in-ear monitor mixer, and I will multi-track out of that and mix the show after the fact, and then I'll film on a couple cameras because I'm a nerd. But realistically, your iPhone has incredible sounding audio. It's got incredible video camera. So anyone should just set up their iPhone or Android or whatever and film their set. Another super easy solution is I have a little Zoom microphone, USB mic, that I clamp to the batter side of the kick drum, the knee position.
Kind of where like an EAD10 would be?
Exactly where an EAD would be.
What's the model of it? Sorry, again, just to get more specific, if you remember.
Yeah, it's a Zoom H2N. You can get them for like $150 on Amazon, and I sync up my audio and video with that. That gets a really nice full picture of the kit in that position. I use Ableton because I'm a psychopath, but you could use GarageBand, Logic, Pro Tools, whatever. I edit in Final Cut, but you could use iMovie, whatever. If anyone has any questions, you can DM me on Instagram. I'll nerd about it for hours. But yeah, generally, if someone comes up to me and they're like, "Hey man, how do I get like really good, easy recordings for cheap?" I always recommend that Zoom H2N, or really like any kind of USB camera, specifically in that like knee crotch mic position, will give you a really good capture of the kit.
And is most of your video from a GoPro?
I have a GoPro, and then I have a Sony A6400. So yeah, it's those two cameras. But I mean, I've been using a GoPro since like 2015. So, and I get that the social media thing, it's super lame for a lot of people. I do feel like I've gotten to a point where it's now just part of my routine, and I don't think about it. I have my 10 minutes before the show, I set up my cameras, and then 5 minutes before I'm on, I hit record. So I'm just like in the routine of, that's what I do every day before the show.
Yeah, you've created this habit that you don't even like going to the gym or whatever,
Totally.
Exercising any muscle. It's just become a normal part of your day at this point, which I think that's the hardest part is just saying to yourself, I'm going to start doing this every time I play. Because I know for myself, I track myself and film myself on occasion, but to me, it's the process of doing so is not necessarily tedious, but it's almost an afterthought.
Sure,
It's kind of like I'd rather just go to my practice spot, play for a couple hours, be done. Oops, I didn't film myself. Oh well, and just getting in that mindset of like, no, the first step is I set everything up. And I'm going to film myself and then do whatever you're going to do. Just to have that, to go back and review if you want to. And I mean,
100%.
you can only gain from that.
But, again, this is so that I can improve and get better. And part of this also stemmed from like the idea of the red light syndrome. If I'm constantly performing in front of a camera, then I'm desensitized to like, okay, the camera's recording versus it's not.
And that's the show. If you're listening on a platform that allows ratings and reviews, do that. It helps more people find the show, so it'll get bigger and better, and hopefully I'll have a chance to sell out one day. But you'll be an OG listener that can brag to all your friends. Anyways, why don't you go and check us out at bigfatsnaredrum.com and follow us on all the socials. Just search for Big Fat Snare Drum, and you will find us. The show is edited in part using iZotope RX Audio Editor. It's amazing, so go check that out at iZotope.com. And thanks again to Gunnar Olsen for the theme music. Bye.